Hi friends, welcome to this week's online teaching at Bluewater Church. I'm so pleased that you have joined us, and I hope for all of you students who have just gone back to school that it's off to a good start. And even if it's not, I trust that Jesus is with you as you go back to your studies this week. May you have a strong sense of His comforting and peace-filled presence. Jesus is our Prince of Peace, and He is with you. He promises never to leave us nor forsake us. And that goes for all of you parents, grandparents, teachers, bus drivers, and everybody else this week as we are shifting into a whole new fall schedule. And that includes a lot of our mooring groups, our small groups at Bluewater Church that meet each week in person, except for the one group that meets online every week. Those are starting up again this week or next week, depending on the date that your group decides to start meeting again. And so I pray that those initial first weeks together would be meaningful as you reestablish connections to one another, as you set your goals and your culture for this mooring year ahead. And today we are hearing from another guest from the Be Christ Church of Canada, which is our denominational set of church families. And so we are hearing from Todd Lester today. And we've heard from Todd before back in last fall. And today he's going to be talking specifically about one of the Be Christ Church of Canada's global missions initiative, and that is the Nepal Peace Project. The Nepal Peace Project is designed to help students receive a good education and give them what they need to be able to do that. And so Bluewater Church has just recently started sponsoring 4 students through the Nepal Peace Project to make sure that these 4 young people have access to good education as well as the support that they need to complete their studies. So I'm really excited to hear from Todd today to teach us more about what is the Nepal Peace Project and how this aligns with the missional heart of God, the desire that Jesus teaches us as He teaches us to follow Him, to be His disciples. First of all, the fact that He cares so deeply for children, that children matter so much to Jesus, matter so much to God, and also that it matters that people's needs are met, that their physical needs are met as well as their spiritual needs. And so part of us loving God is also loving one another, because that's what Jesus taught us to do. So again, this week we have a guest worship leader, Melanie Wigg. Melanie is the Director of Next Generations for the BIC, Be Christ Church of Canada. She leads the young adults program called the Flow Internship that I got to be part of a few years ago, as well as some other internships and programs for young people, because BIC really invests quite strongly in equipping and training and helping the next generation really discover who they are in light of who Jesus is. And so I'm really grateful to the BIC for their investment in young people, as well as their commitment to mission, to global mission as well. So Melanie is going to lead us in a worship song today. And first, before we enter into that time of musical worship, let's pray. Jesus, thank you so much that you just care so much for children, for young people, that you even tell us that without becoming like a child, without having childlike faith, childlike awe at who you are, that it will be difficult for us to enter your kingdom, because your kingdom is beautiful and awesome and awe-inspiring and joyful in ways that sometimes only those who are childlike can really appreciate. So would you help us this year to learn from the young people around us? May they impact us and influence us even as we as parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, adults of influence in these young people's lives, even as we help them in their maturing journey as they grow into who they are. So we ask your blessing on each person listening today. Thank you so much for Todd and his willingness to share about this topic that he is so passionate about. Thank you for Melanie as she leads us in this song. Would you lead us into your presence from wherever we are listening today? Amen.
Hello, Bluewater Church. My name is Todd Lester. I work for the BIC. In my work for the BIC, I oversee leadership development, operations, and global programs. Today, I want to share about some of our global work, specifically the Nepal Peace Project. Thanks to Pastor Corinne for inviting me to share with you today. You're in good hands with Pastor Corinne. We really think highly of her, and I feel you're fortunate to have her as your pastor. Thank you for your interest in the global work of the Be in Christ Church over these past 2 Sundays, especially. This morning, I want to do 2 things. I want to talk about some words that Jesus spoke, a story he told that I think is very helpful to us. And then I want to give you an awesome opportunity to apply those verses as I understand them. I hope it is helpful, and I hope it moves you forward in your desire to follow Jesus. The passage I want to read from is in Luke 16, verses 1 to 9. Luke 16, 1 to 9. You can follow on your Bible, on your app. It says there, Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer. The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, how much do you owe my master? 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, and how much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. Jesus concludes this parable by telling us a lesson, and I appreciate that. I mean, there are times when Jesus could be downright cryptic. Sometimes he really makes you work to know what he's talking about, but not here. He says, I tell you, in other words, here's the lesson. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Jesus was an A+ storyteller. One reason was that he took a lot of liberty in choosing his characters. I mean, the people in this story are rascals, but they use worldly wealth to gain friends for themselves so that when it is gone, they'll get rewarded in return. In fact, Jesus often told stories using questionable characters. I mean, they're the kind of people the listener would be familiar with. Jesus told a story about an unjust judge in Luke 18 who refused to listen to the plea of a widow. It's often called the parable of the persistent widow. And the woman just kept after the hard-boiled judge. And finally, just to get rid of her, he gave her what she asked for. And Jesus used that judge as both a contrast to God and a comparison to God. Jesus used unsavory characters in his stories. Jesus is not commending the unethical practices of this branch manager, but he is commending his shrewdness in that he used his position and his possessions to prepare for his future. You and I ought to be like this businessman or like the politician who knows the value of friends. In our case, eternal friendships. We should use our position and our possessions to make eternal friends, because we're like that branch manager in the sense we're not the owners, we are only the managers. Nothing you have is really yours. You're given it and encouraged to use it, but when push comes to shove, you haven't earned a thing. Everything you have is a loan commodity. It isn't really yours to keep, it's just yours to use. It's on loan to you. And like that branch manager, one day it will be all taken away from you. And even if you can keep it, you will be taken away from it. How do you win friends who will welcome you into eternal dwellings? Well, one way we see in the New Testament is to invest in the ministries of other people. Paul wrote a letter to the church of Philippi. And more than anything, it's a thank you letter. On one occasion, Paul had run out of money, and there was one group of people that come through for him, the Philippians. They collected money and sent it to Paul. And when the chips were down, they had come through for him. And in this letter, Paul's saying thanks to them for the times when they had helped. And there he is under house arrest in Rome. And Paul says in this letter, thank you again. It's interesting because he not only talks about what their gifts had done for him, but he's also thankful for the gift, for what it had done for them. He says in Philippians 4:17, one where he says, I'm hoping for a profit that accumulates in your account. Paul is saying, you have invested in my ministry, and you have a share in it as a result. Through your local church donations, I think you are making friends, because the work of this church requires partners. And as the church makes an impact in your community, the partners receive a dividend, a profit that accumulates in your account. One day you're going to get to heaven, and there'll be people in heaven from this community, from your community where you live, and they may put out a sign that says, welcome friends from Bluewater Church. If you went to a financial advisor, they would encourage you to have a balanced portfolio. My advisor told me to invest in mutual funds. You know what they are? They're those investments that you invest in, and 5 years later, you have less than you began with. No, I don't mean that. In a mutual fund, 5% goes here, and 6% goes there, and 10% goes somewhere else. You kind of spread your money all around the world with mutual funds. Investing in BIC through your cooperative ministries, your church, is investing literally around the world. And someday those international friends will welcome you into the kingdom of heaven. One day people will greet you into eternal dwellings. People from cities where churches were planted and strengthened and communities impacted and lives transformed. In heaven, there'll be a banner. Welcome, friends from Bluewater Church. You are making friends here in your community because of your presence, because of your initiatives, your ministries. I know someone from my younger days growing up who ran a garage, and each year there were people who would their accounts would be in arrears. They would get their car repaired, but they couldn't afford to pay for the repair. And about Christmas time, he would look over those accounts, especially the ones he knew, were single mothers, or those who had become unemployed, and he would send them a letter. And in the letter, he tells them that their debt to him had been removed. They owed him nothing. Then he writes, a long time ago, I became a Christian and I owed a debt I could not pay. And Jesus came into my life and removed that debt. And because he's a Christian, he now wants to remove the debt for those who owe him. Then he welcomes them to the Christmas services at the church, and he puts information about the times for Christmas services in the letter. I don't know what you think about that, but I think that man is shrewd in using his money to do the work of the kingdom. And I know he's reaped dividends to his account. You also are making friends in other parts of the world. Your church is taking on some sponsorships, children in Nepal. I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. I like Jesus' words because I think Jesus is preaching what he practiced. You remember the story when he was at the wedding, and to the embarrassment of the honored guests, they ran out of wine. Jesus could have given them a sermon on contentment. He could have talked about marriage, said this is just a honeymoon, the real work starts after today. But he made water into wine so that the party could continue. I think he made some friends that day. He used his position to win friends. Jesus often talked about money, as many people have noted. That kind of makes us uncomfortable when we talk about money, doesn't it? What does Jesus say about money in this passage? One, he says that money is a little thing. It's a little thing. Verses 10 and 11 says, whoever can be trusted with very little money can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you've not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? To say money's a little thing turns the values of our culture upside down. I think that's the whole problem today. Money's become everything. My wife and I have friends in Nepal that we don't really know at all. I call them friends because of the way I look at money based on what Jesus says in this passage, because we send them funds so they can attend school and be tutored and discipled. I think should any of them arrive in heaven before us, they would greet us as a friend based on what Jesus says here. Second thing Jesus says is that money is an unrighteous thing. He says it's an unrighteous thing. You look at verse 11, the NIV translates it, worldly wealth. I love the King James Version. It says unrighteous mammon. We don't really know what unrighteous mammon is, do we? It's like when we say filthy lucre. We all know what you mean, but we probably don't know what lucre is. Why does Jesus call money worldly wealth, unrighteous mammon? Just think of all the unrighteous deeds that are done just to get it. Because if you make money, which is a small thing, into a big thing, it will become an unrighteous thing because you will do almost anything to get it. But the thing is, Jesus doesn't say, take an oath of poverty. Instead, he teaches us the redemptive value of money. Jesus says, money is a little thing. It's an unrighteous thing. But then he says, money can be a useful thing. Jesus says, money can be a useful thing. The rabbis had an interesting saying. The rich help the poor in this world, but the poor help the rich in the world to come. It was Jewish belief that a person's eternal wealth would consist not in what they kept, but in what they gave away. Jesus wraps up this passage with this commentary. He says in verse 13, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Where I grew up, we used to say, you can't dance to two different bands. Jesus is saying you can't live for God and for gold. There are two different centers. And Jesus commends us to serve God and to use your money to win friends who will one day welcome you into eternal dwellings. The Nepal Peace Project is a child education initiative and sponsorship program. The Being Christ Church has always understood that the education of a child is an investment in both the child and the local community. We recognize that education is a passport for children to a better future. As children are educated through the support and sponsorship of the local church, the church is investing in a better future and improving the communities that it exists to serve. The BIC Church, both in Canada and the US, has a long history of educational investment in the Far East region of the world. For decades, we sponsored children through a program called SPICE. In recent years, the Church in Nepal envisioned a more sustainable program. So the US BIC Church continues to sponsor the SPICE program, but Canada has taken on the responsibility of launching a new program called the Nepal Peace Project. And this new initiative, it carries on that tradition of investment in education. Historical and geopolitical forces have hindered Nepal's development in comparison to other countries. In many of the development markers, Nepal is well behind the global standards. Education is one of those areas. Historically, education in Nepal was mostly home-based, with only the elite permitted to go to a full school with teachers. During the 1950s, the opportunity for education was increased, and the initiative made a lot of progress over the next 20 years, but much more is still needed. It's improving, but it's still far behind the standards that we're used to here in Canada. According to the World Bank, enrollment rates in secondary education grew from 45% to around 59% between 2007 and 2015. But then it dropped down again due to some natural disasters in the region. It's the nature of developing countries that natural disasters have more of an impact than on the rich nations. So I'm waiting to see what the result of the pandemic has been on education enrollment in Nepal. Has there been a setback to the progress that had been made? What's alarming is the areas where they have lagged the most behind are education for girls and for the poor. According to World Education News, children from poor families are often forced to quit school because they have to help their families with farming or have to walk long distances to attend classes. Also, the education of girls is still not seen as a priority in some rural areas, and child marriage is still a relatively common practice in some places. According to Human Rights Watch, 37% of girls in Nepal marry before age 18, and 10% are married by age 15. So the Nepal Peace Project's an initiative, an education initiative, because the need is so prevalent, and there are a few efforts that transform the life of a child and a community, like investment in education. The Nepal Peace Project is based solely upon the vision of the local church leaders in Nepal. This sense an opportunity for the local church to lift up the children in its community. The leaders have envisioned a program that would help children attend school, pay for uniforms and fees, and have supplemental tutoring and spiritual guidance. So when we contribute monies to the Nepal Peace Project, we're entering into a partnership by providing financial resources to help them achieve the vision they have for their communities. So what is unique about this program? One is local leadership. This project was imagined and created by the BIC Church in Nepal. Local leaders are responsible for planning and implementation of the program. The church in Canada is acting as a financial partner for the program. It's local church based. The local BIC Church in Nepal, they're providing the tutoring and mentorship and the support for the children who attend the after-school tutoring program. Each church has an overseer and on-site staff support and provide tutoring and meals. So our financial contributions are for a program that employs young church leaders to be mentors and tutors, and it's administered by the local church pastors and leaders. And it provides local education. The project works with the pre-existing education system in the local communities where the children live. So this program supplements the public education by providing tutoring and spiritual development activities. We are helping the children to go to school in Nepalese schools. That's why the leaders in Nepal believe this program is sustainable. What's the impact? Well, your donations make a huge impact in the lives of the children who participate in the Nepal Peace Project program. We're now at 100 children in the program. I'll have a video in a few minutes that captures the impact of the program on one particular family that you'll get to meet. Each student is given an opportunity to attend a public school, be part of a program that provides tutoring, basic food, and healthcare, as well as spiritual formation activities. So your donations provide essential assistance to allow children to attend school and receive the extra support required in the difficult situations they live with in rural Nepal. I was able to travel to Nepal and to see firsthand the life-changing work being done through this education initiative. The leaders of Nepal have envisioned this new program as a better option for the future of education in Nepal. We admire them for providing such a clear and compelling picture of how we can help them provide education and spiritual formation for children in Nepal. We ask you to seriously consider partnering with us in this program that impacts students and communities. You might have some questions. You might think, how much does it cost per month to become a partner? Well, the cost to sponsor a child is $39 per month. And the benefit of giving to child sponsorship through the BIC is that we send 100% of your money to the project. Any administration costs, any setup costs, any currency fluctuations, those are covered and contributed by the BIC denomination. 100% of your money goes to the project. I don't think anybody else can do that for you. What does the money cover? Well, your partnership will cover the cost of school fees, uniform costs, stationery, tutoring, spiritual mentoring, and one hearty meal 6 days a week. This is life-changing for the children who live in the rural, impoverished conditions that many of these children experience. The program also creates part-time employment for one teacher and one cook at each program location, thereby boosting the local economy. So how do I become a monthly partner in the Nepal Peace Project? Well, thankfully, your church is already participating, and we're so grateful for that. And if you personally are interested in finding out more, you can visit our Nepal Peace Project website. Pastor Corinne can give you more information about that. Can I give a one-time donation? Absolutely. Well, monthly partners help us budget and plan for the program. We understand not everyone desires to commit to a monthly plan. We're grateful for all donations. You might be wondering, can I write my sponsor child? Well, due to the way this program is set up, you're not assigned to a specific child. This results in low administration costs, and as I said, the BIC Canada covers those costs. We don't send you glossy pictures of the children. We keep the program costs as low as possible so that we can cover those costs so that 100% of your money can go to the program. Even if you need to cancel your sponsorship, we understand the situations and change in life, and we're always here to help you in whatever way you would request. I'll leave you with this quote from John Todd. He said, "We must be a global church with a global vision because our God is a global God." I'm so encouraged that you're a globally minded church. I want to say, keep up the good work, because you are making friends who will welcome you into your eternal dwellings.
यस्तो बुबा यो डाँडा सिकाउनुहुन्थ्यो अनि हामी उहाँ बस्थ्यौँ उता अनि बहिनी र मम्मी मात्रै हुनुहुन्थ्यो अनि त्यतिखेर
Nepal is well known for its breathtaking mountain ranges and natural beauty, as well as its iconic historical temples and shrines. But in the southern region of Nepal, life can be very difficult, especially for a group of people called the Santal.
In Nepal, there are 125 different people groups. Santal is one among them, and this is a marginalized community. And for many years, they owned the land and they were cultivating. But when some educated people, some high caste people came, and they found that these people have land, but they do not have legal documents. These people, they went to the office, they legalized the land, and they said, "This is ours, this belongs to us."
On top of this loss of land, factors such as low literacy rates and high rates of alcohol abuse have contributed to economic marginalization among the community. These challenges have led to many parents taking their children, especially girls, out of school so they can work, further limiting their opportunities to break out of the poverty they currently face.
मेरो नाम परमिला मुर्मु हो म 12 वर्षको भए म कक्षा 6 मा पढ्छु मसँग दुईटा बहिनी छ मेरो दुईटा बहिनी छ एउटाको नाम कञ्चन हो अनि एउटाको नाम सलिना
In 2018, the BIC Church in Surunga started a new project called the Peace Project to help vulnerable children like Pramila and her sisters stay in school and thrive. Today, there are more than 100 young people enrolled in this program.
हामी सोच्छौं अनि के भन्छ उहाँले सिकाइदिनुहुन्छ अनि त्यही लेख्छौं यसरी नै कि बाइबलको रट्न दिनुहुन्छ अनि होमवर्कहरू सिकाउनुहुन्छ अनि गीतहरू सिकाउनुहुन्छ पुर्याउँदैछ।
पहिला यहाँ पिस प्रोजेक्टमा हुँदा चाहिँ पर्मिलालाई भन्नुपर्दा पढ्नै आउँदैन थियो, लजाउँथे अनि साथै अनि उसको प्यारेन्ट्सहरूले पनि फोर्स गर्ने नपढ भनेर अनि त्यस पछाडि उहाँ यतिकै यहाँ नपढ्दाखेरि उसलाई खासै त्यो केही ज्ञान नै थिएन यस्तो पढ्ने उयो गर्ने।
The Peace Project provides a safe place for students to study, receive tutoring, a nutritious meal, and receive assistance with school fees and other education-related costs. The students also receive mentorship and discipleship that is transforming not only their lives, but their parents as well.
र क्रिस्चियनमा यहाँ आएपछि हामीलाई अहिले केहीको पनि दुःख छैन।